think making out groups is fine to redeem ourselves a little bit, but the way we made out groups is not very convincing.
And G2 shot and International redemption stays alive!
Maybe now that we're out of groups, the redemption story is still alive.
Here come the big damage, boys! No, the double kill onto the guard, and Brooks gets out alive!
因为我们曾经跟G2打过2比0赢过他们，所以我觉得可能跟他打的话，应该会在心理上会有一点优势。
There's the charge in, almost killed Mindy in an instant, and then a straight onto Sven. Pulled back by 957, exhausted down, 7 is there, Sven fights it up, but there's a quarter kill for Condi.
想要拿冠军的话，是所有队伍都要赢的。
결승전을 가면은 EU 팬들한테 되게 자랑스러울 것 같고요.
From Rio, and thank you for joining us once again at the Jeunesse Arena for the 2017 Mid-Season Invitational. Now, earlier today, we saw WE making their way into the arena as they prep to go up against G2 for the EU region, looking for redemption from last year's run, already making it to the bracket stage. We'll see what they can do today. Now, yesterday, the world champions SKT became the first team to qualify for tomorrow's final, and today we find out who will join them on Summoner's Rift. I'm James Dash Patterson. Helping me break down today's games are Sam, Kobe, Hartman, Kinsler, Chris, Papa Smithy Smith, and Joshua Jat Leesman. We had a very quick day yesterday, hoping for maybe a little bit more competition today.
These teams play a little bit slower, so we can hope for more than 90 overall minutes of gameplay. Fingers crossed.
At least there was a little variation, like SKT decided to win in different ways in a couple of the games.
Exactly that. They had to show a few strategies. Now, yesterday we saw SK Telecom T1 claim the first spot in tomorrow's final in a commanding 3-0 over the LMS's Flash Wolves. Again, very quick.
Yeah, they showed it was no myth that SKT step up from the group stage to the bracket stage. We know their best-of-5 performance based on history. We saw it last year when they had a lackluster time in the group stage at MSI, and this year they were just out for blood against the Flash Wolves.
Yeah, and the biggest doubt was right before this fight in the first game. After this happened, it felt like just one continuous path to victory.
And then in the second game, I think all doubt was definitely washed away by Faker himself, as we saw one of the most absolutely dominating performances in the mid lane that we've ever witnessed.
Yeah, banning LeBlanc in every game in the group stage, only to then be plus 45 CS at 10 minutes against it in the knockout stage, is exactly what we're talking about when we say it's a totally different beast when SKT or even Faker is in an elimination game.
And can you believe that we came into the day yesterday saying that Faker was the weak point of SKT, only to be shut?
I didn't say that.
Who said that?
That's a good point. That's a good point. It's the other analyst who got removed for today's desk. All right. Well, SKT will look to defend their title against the winner of today's semifinal between Team WE and G2 eSports. While G2 qualified for the semis on the tail end of the group stage, WE had the best record in the second round robin.
Yeah, WE really seemed to have stronger early games than many people would have expected. You can see how they had leads in 8 of their 10 games and consistently far ahead in gold. And this was a team that already had good macro decision making. So when they're jumping out to those early leads, they know what to do with it.
And I felt like the scouting report of them being this slower team, them being the Elder Dragon team, a lot of what was seen in the LPL was kind of shattered. We kind of had a lot of these players in a box. This is their style. This is how they will play, even the team style. And then they adapted heavily. And I think the vanguards of style here are the junglers here. And that's not necessarily a comment on what they're wearing, but a comment on how they've been playing at this tournament. You have to look at Trick, the double MVP. He's, of course, someone last year, the double MVP. His play this tournament has come under a lot of scrutiny. And you look at numbers like, for example, in the regular season, 19.4% death participation, very normal. 30%, 29.9 at this tournament. Everyone has seen some of his wanderings into the enemy jungle, some of his deaths, whereas Condi has really profited on their early game drafting and been super clean. And I feel like this battle will be pivotal. We need to see Trick come back to his European form for G2 to actually have a chance in this best of 5.
Yeah, we need to see Trick being much more proactive with G2, whereas Condi has actually been overly active to a fault in some of the games, but still very clearly the leader of that team and much more quality performance than Trick.
Yeah, key there is also working with the team to plan out these early jungle routes. We've seen how important that can be in controlling those routes. The other thing, if you can get pushing lanes, if you can get winning lanes, that helps out junglers a lot. And guess who has the best CS difference in the entire, AD carry category here? It is Mystic. So even though G2, they always look to Sven, they look to Perks. I mean, Mystic has been an absolute all-star for Team WE. And not only in the lane phase where he has dominated, and has over 13 CS difference at 10, but also he's taken the mantle of that primary engage in multiple roles with the Ash arrows coming through. So very, very good stuff from him all tournament long.
Yeah, and that CSD is coming with some fumbles in the laning phase when they're dying. And Mystic in particular, I feel like is one of the main reasons Team WE is so effective on this patch. They're getting the early lead in the bottom lane, and there's a ton of enablers in the meta right now that can allow him to carry games.
I mean, he was a late game team fighter, and now +5 CSD over Bang, who's number 2 in the AD carry role, lets you know that the dominance in laning phase has been clear for Mystic.
Now we talk about WE kind of showing up to this tournament. The expectation is that they'll perform late game. Well, guess what? They also perform in the early game. Flip side of the rift, G2 had a very rough time through this group stage in terms of mounting early games against their opponents.
Yeah, pretty much the only thing to be happy about if you're G2 right now is the fact that they made it to the knockout stage, because when you look at these gold graphs, they were behind between 20 and 34 minutes. In 9 out of 10 games, they were atrocious in the early game, but they played very well as a team. They still had Sven as a late game carry, but especially against Team WE, the red spots on those drafts, those got out of hand quickly, and they have to play a best of 5 against that team today.
I mean, the insane stat is they have spent 23% of their time ahead in gold. That lets you know they've won 4 matches with only a combined 23% ahead. They've been pulling it late, they've been getting it done and ending games quickly, but it is insane that they've made it this far. To come in 3rd seed with numbers like this is just unprecedented.
And to be fair, yes, they are, embracing the late game and drafting for the late game and playing into that strategy, but still, you have to be very cautious about how much they're giving up early.
Yeah, by no means is that the plan for G2 is like, oh, we're going to fall behind and scale later. No, they want to have more games like that victory against Flash Wolves because they know Sven and Perks have been able to carry when they get gold. It's just a matter of how long do they have to wait for them to get the gold.
I was about to say, they don't necessarily want to have to go late, but if they do go late, they at least have the ability to kind of rely on Sven specifically as late game carry. Also, Perks, his individual performance throughout this tournament has actually been quite good, even in those early game deficits. I'm going to put you guys on record, though. I need hard answers, predictions down the line. Kobe, starting with you. Who's going to meet SKT tomorrow in the finals?
Hard answer. I think it is going to be Team WE. I'm going to go with them 3-1. I just think that across the board, their strengths, they don't really have a weakness that is exploitable by G2, and a lot of the strengths match up really well versus this team. So I think it will be difficult for G2.
Might have to be an echo chamber here because Team W at 3-1 was my prediction as well. I think Perks can be that bridge in at least one game to allow them to get to the late game, which if Trick steps up his performance as well. But it feels like we have to really think about certain things lining up for a single game victory. So that's why I think WE comfortably will take the series.
Now we know the WE themselves, we heard it in that opening video, they're confident based on the 2-0 that they hold over G2 from the group stage and how dominant those were. Are you falling in line with these guys, or are you going to flip the script?
I have the same prediction as these guys with Team WE, except I think it's potentially going to be even more one-sided. I have this as a 3-0 for Team WE. To Kobe's point, looking at the matchup, I feel like the strengths of G2 do not lead to much victory against Team WE unless G2 overperform or Team WE underperform heavily. And based on their upward trajectory throughout the second half of the group stage, going 5-0 in that second round robin, I think they're going to storm their way to the finals.
All right, well, you in a sense kind of answered the question I'm going to go to, and I'm going to push you a little bit harder. Since all 3 of you decided to go with WE, what is the way outside of just overperform, underperform? Maybe a specific mechanic. I know you were pointing at the junglers. How does G2 come out ahead in this?
My first instincts would be to go play around Perks a little bit more because even though they've had all these protect the air carry comps, I think that Perks as an individual player has really stepped up in all areas of his game from the last time that we've seen him.
Now again, we don't have an EU guy on the desk, but the EU caster's been talking all the time about G2 best of 5 dominance in their region, yet to be tested in best of 5s internationally. Do we have faith in a sense?
They adapt well, incredibly in-game as well as out of game. So if they can find the window in which to get at WE or make them tilt a little bit, that's a huge way of winning. But just specifically about the way they play, playing through Perks, playing through Sven, having Trick be a reliable player, still picking scaling compositions, I'm the main guy to say that it can happen. I just don't think it will happen. So
I hear you there. Papa Smithy, final thoughts here.
I mean, a lot of time for adaptation with the 4 days off, or the 5-day break, I guess they got, but they weren't able to show any adaptation in style during the 10 matches they played. That's why I'm saying one game, if they can get Perks an advantageous matchup, if we can see Trick maybe show a new pick, I think they can pick up a game. But again, the match is a bridge too far.
All right, well, there you have it from the experts on the desk. As we send it to the stage for picks and bans, Condi tells us how a best of 5 is all about starting out on the right foot.
如果要赢下 BO5 的话，我觉得最关键就是在第1把吧，因为双方的第一次交战会给之后的几场比赛来带来就是很多的改变。如果能拿下第1场的话，我觉得对我们队伍的信心是很有利。